Impenetrable membrane, pounding gallops, and unyielding grit make this Spider-Man villain a force to reckon with. We are talking about Spidey's horned menace Rhino, aka Alexei Sistevich, who transformed from an average human into a threatening enemy. This unstoppable force of destruction is known to charge headfirst into battles, leaving chaos in his wake. But behind the thick exterior is a story that will tug at your heartstrings, for Rhino is an emotionally driven guy. From his first comic book appearance to his various transformations to his adaptation across animated series and films, we are gearing up to explore this hardcore nemesis from Spider-Man's web-slinging world. Now, before we go into our video, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Now let's begin. Rhino's debut and clash with Spider-Man. Rhino made his first appearance in The Amazing Spider-Man issue number 41 and encountered Spider-Man. His backstory revealed that he was a gangster in the Russian mafia and could do anything to earn an extra buck to support his family. Allured by the prospect of making more moolah, Alexei signed up for an experiment conducted by scientists Igor and Georgie. The experiment involved harmful chemicals and radiation that could prove fatal, but Alexei went through with it for several months. The rhinoceros-inspired treatment hulked him up, giving him superhuman strength, but in return the rhino armor was permanently bonded with his hide. The scientists, however, had a twisted reason for selecting Alexei for the experiment. Alexei was muscular but also dim-witted, which the two scientists thought would allow them to manipulate this powerhouse easily. He was given the codename Rhino, for he had begun to resemble one in strength and appearance. Now, Rhino's first mission would have been a cakewalk had he not messed things up, and then of course Spidey was there too. All Rhino was ordered to do was kidnap astronaut John Jameson, who was J. Jonah Jameson's son, the Daily Bugle publisher. The Russians would then auction him off to the highest dealer, but the money-hungry Rhino thought he could do them one up and attacked his commanders instead and annihilated their headquarters. He then headed to New York City to carry out his mission, only to be stopped by Spider-Man. But the Rhino didn't make it easy. Soon Spider-Man realised that once Rhino began charging, he couldn't easily change direction or stop. And also, he wasn't the brightest bulb in the box. Using his brains and agility, Spider-Man outwitted the Rhino and sent him to a special facility where Rhino was kept under sedation. Rhino, however, managed to break out of the hospital and sought revenge on Spider-Man. But Spidey by then had curated special webs containing acid pellets, with some to help render Rhino's hide fragile and incompetent. This time, Spidey sent Rhino to jail where he served his sentence. But Rhino was hungry for more power, and the Russians needed a scapegoat, so they readily accepted Rhino back and boosted his strength using gamma rays. They had also given him acid-resistant armor, doubling Rhino's strength and transforming him into a staunch force. Rhino had several clashes with the Hulk too. They last appeared in the Joe Fix-It series, where Rhino is the handyman of the Kingpin and Hulk appears as his grey-skinned alter ego Joe Fix-It, who works for Mr. Berengeti, a casino owner with links to organised crime. Meanwhile, Spidey is trying to figure out why Hulk went from green to grey and what the Kingpin is planning to unleash in Vegas. Rhino is now the Kingpin's handyman, and he enters the scene once Kingpin drugs Joe Fix-It and starts manipulating him to conquer the Las Vegas casinos. Obviously, the two mighty giants had to cross paths. The epic battle of the Titans sees Joe and Rhino throwing more than just punches to each other. Even Hydro Man, although it's some others, enters the fight. Hydro Man unleashes the full force of his powers to keep Rhino at bay, but the brutal force keeps coming back. Hydro Man sent one final tidal wave to wash down Rhino, and that was the last we've heard of him in the comics. Rhino's Wild Hunt. A ferocious debut in animated Spider-Man series. Rhino showed his mightiness in the Spider-Man animated series, appearing across versions in different styles. He was first seen in 3 episodes of the 1967 series Spider-Man, followed by The Spider-Man the Animated Series, where Spidey almost killed him. Rhino was then seen in the Spectacular Spider-Man series, but his name was Alex O'Hearn, and he was on a mission to destroy Spider-Man. Rhino also played the villain in The Ultimate Spider-Man and Marvel's Spider-Man, and has different backstories in both versions. With each appearance, Rhino's wild and powerful presence added excitement to Spider-Man's adventures. From the 1960s to the modern animated series, Rhino's roaring impact thrilled Spider-Man fans to the core. So let's delve deeper into his avatars in each of these animated series.
Spider sensor's tingling. Something's wrong up front.
Spider-Man, 1967. The animated series titled Spider-Man, released in 1967, saw Rhino steal an explosive in the episode Horn of the Rhino. Spider-Man was wrongfully accused as the perpetrator. Rhino was shown in a grey suit with 2 horns on his head. The suit seemed like it was merged with Rhino's entire body, leaving his head, nose and mouth open. However, he was given a wrinkled face to resemble a rhinoceros. The cunning Rhino also cleverly used his ruse to hide in the rhinoceros enclosure at the zoo. In his first appearance, he collides with a speeding train head-on, derailing the train that is carrying the explosive he later steals. Rhino's character was voiced by Ed McNamara and was portrayed as a beast with immeasurable strength, especially once he gained momentum. The next episode, titled The Golden Rhino, saw Rhino steal $15 million in gold bullion from the International Exchange. Rhino decides to melt the gold and make a golden statue for himself. Using his classic velocity, Rhino later steals more gold from the gold depository, causing a massive hole in the wall of the depository. Spider-Man tries to cover the hole with his webs to catch the Rhino, but our menacing villain is so powerful that he brings down the entire wall while escaping the trap. Spider-Man finally uses a concentrated steel web to capture him. Rhino's third appearance in the series was in an episode called Rhino, where the animated series reused footage from the previous episodes, Horn of the Rhino and the Golden Rhino. The storyline was similar to the Golden Rhino. Now in these episodes we don't see much hand-to-hand combats between Spidey and Rhino. Spider-Man is even heard saying, "How do you capture a charging catastrophe?" So it's quite evident that Rhino is unstoppable once he begins to charge. Rhino is seen dodging bullets and missiles as he accelerates towards ships, trains and other vehicles. In the episodes, Spider-Man resorted to using his wits over his brawls to capture Rhino each time.
Stretch, they ain't gonna look no for long. Let's get
Spider-Man the Animated Series. Spider-Man the Animated Series was released in the 1990s, and in the episode The Alien Costume, we got to revisit Rhino as the hired hand of the Kingpin. John Jameson's space shuttle is attacked by an unknown symbiote, forcing it to crash land on the George Washington Bridge. The Kingpin seeks this opportunity to send Rhino to steal a powerful compound called Promethium X from the shuttle. Spider-Man intervenes, but Rhino almost kills him, only to be stopped by a phone call from the Kingpin to retrieve the compound and head back to Crime Central. Later, Kingpin requires special control rods to handle the stolen Promethium X, and Rhino is again called into action. But by this time, Spidey gets his hands on the symbiote. Any guesses who this will turn out to be eventually? Yes, Spider-Man adorns his iconic black symbiote suit, which we later become acquainted with as Venom. The suit amplifies his aggression, and Spidey comes dangerously close to killing Rhino. However, in a surprising twist of events, Rhino pleads for his life and Spider-Man relents. Rhino was voiced by Don Stark in the series and later by Richard Mole. His character showed his emotional and vulnerable side when he begged for mercy. However, the series saw a different Rhino in terms of his build. Though he had a similar grey Rhino suit, the Rhino was more muscular than his 1960s counterpart. He was also significantly larger and exhibited more brute. The attacking style of both remained the same, charging horns first into their opponents. The intriguing evolution of Rhino's character continues as he becomes a crucial member of the formidable Insidious Six, a supervillain team formed by Kingpin to defeat Spider-Man once and for all. The other members of this sinister group include Dr. Octopus, Shocker, Mysterio, Chameleon and Scorpion. The Six kept setting up traps to lure Spider-Man into their captivity, but he escaped. Only when they went after Aunt May did the Six really manage to capture Spider-Man, but as luck would have it, the Six refused to believe that Peter was the real Spider-Man and assumed he wore a Halloween costume to save his aunt. Later, the Kingpin sent the Insidious Six after Silverman, who was trying to overpower Kingpin. Along with Rhino, the others caught Silverman. Spider-Man tried to rescue Silverman only to be attacked by Rhino and get captured, but Spidey used his wits once again and persuaded Rhino into believing that he was the Chameleon in disguise. He also tricks Rhino into attacking his own teammates, sowing seeds of discord among the Six. The Spectacular Spider-Man. Unlike the comics where Rhino was a Russian mafia gangster, the Spectacular Spider-Man series showed him as an American named Alexander O'Hearn, who had a similarly laced Rhino suit. He became a pawn in the schemes of Tombstone and Hammerhead, who intend to exploit Norman Osborn and Dr. Octopus's experiments. Rhino underwent a unique augmentation process that set him apart from other versions of the character, giving him a silicon, titanium-laced hide. It augmented his powers, giving him superhuman strength and unmatched durability. Barring Rhino's face, his entire body is encased in the alloy armor, which also becomes his weakness as his sweat is entrapped within, making him susceptible to weakness in extreme and prolonged heat. In Spectacular Spider-Man, Rhino and his partner, Flint Marko, are criminals doing odd jobs for the big man. As the web-slinger foils their plans, Rhino's criminal career becomes a series of arrests and subsequent escapes. Alex O'Hearn and Flint Marko plan a daring jewelry center heist. Where Marko is thrilled about the loot, Rhino isn't, since he has to lose most of it to the big man. Rhino accidentally triggers an alarm, leading Spidey to capture and suspend him upside down. Later, both Rhino and his partner are sent to prison, and after that, once out of jail, the Shocker hire the duo to trap Spider-Man. They rob a jewelry store, set off the alarm, and escape to hide in a warehouse where Spider-Man comes to foil their plans of getting paid for the loot. In a failed attempt, Rhino tries to run over Spider-Man with a truck. Shocker then retaliates, hitting him with a pulse beat. Everyone assumes Spider-Man is dead, and Rhino and Marko try to finish their thieving plans before they find out about Spider-Man's fate. But it's not so easy to kill Spidey. The web-slinger swings back into action, stopping the robbery, and the duo end up apprehended, presumably arrested for their crimes. Rhino's final appearance in the series in the episode opening night is where Spider-Man was arrested. As he tries to escape, the Green Goblin sends an army of Spidey's villains after him, releasing them from the same penitentiary where Spider-Man was imprisoned. Rhino was one of the many who Spider-Man tricked and gassed them unconscious, sending them back into their cells. In the Spectacular Spider-Man, Rhino was voiced by Clancy Brown and was given a slightly modified version of the grey armor. Rhino's one horn was bigger and longer than the other one. He stood 7 feet 5 inches tall, and his armor was layered, much like a real rhinoceros's hide. Ultimate Spider-Man Animated Series. In the Ultimate Spider-Man animated series, the incarnation of the Rhino is a teenager named Alex O'Hearn. Max Mittelman voices Alex's teen version, and Daryl Sabara voices his Rhino avatar. Now, unlike his previous counterparts, Rhino is not the metal-armoured criminal who we know. Alex is a young kid who attends school like all normal kids his age. He uses a formula that transforms him into an anthropomorphic rhinoceros. So while the others had skin-laced armors that encase their entire body, but not their face, Alex's formula gives him an overall rhinoceros look, including his face. In his first encounter with Spider-Man and Power Man, Rhino attacks an Oscorp facility and easily defeats the duo before escaping. But at school, Alex falls prey to Flash Thompson's bullying, and despite Peter's efforts to hang out with him, Alex rejects him, assuming it's out of pity. Later, the Rhino strikes again, stealing from a train delivering equipment to Oscorp. During the battle, Power Man's leg is damaged, and they have to retreat to a Quinjet piloted by Agent Coulson for medical treatments. As Flash's bullying continues, Alex resorts to consuming the formula once again and transforming into the gigantic and monstrous Rhino. He goes after Flash, but Spider-Man intervenes to protect him. A fierce battle ensues, with the Rhino proving stronger than both Peter and Power Man. However, they manage to knock him out, and Alex reverts to his human form and is later taken into custody by S.H.I.E.L.D. Despite his initial misdemeanors, Alex is given a second chance and offered a spot at the S.H.I.E.L.D. Academy. He joins and starts using his powers for good. However, later on, Dr. Octopus places Rhino under mind control during the 4th season. Spider-Man and his team work together to find a way to reverse the mind control and bring Alex back to his human form. The Ultimate Spider-Man animated series showed a new Rhino who went from being evil to good, once engaged with the right people, which was a unique take on this supervillain. Marvel's Spider-Man 2017. Marvel's Spider-Man 2017 saw a comeback of Rhino as a Russian named Alexei Sistevich, only he was a student and college mate of Peter Parker. Alexei, voiced by Matthew Mercer, was an intelligent student who scored an A+ in Otto Octavius' class and had no evil intentions that we know of. In an unfortunate incident, Alexei, out of excitement, gives a high five to Professor Raymond Warren, who is wearing a ring with a serum. Professor Warren injects Alexei with the serum, which sets off a series of transformative events for him in the episode A Day in the Life. The next episode, Party Animal, shows the effects of the serum in the needle taking effect, turning Alexi into a monstrous man-rhino hybrid during the school dance. It sends him into a fiery rampage, destroying everything in his path without really having a clearly defined agenda. Fortunately, Alexi was eventually cured of his transformation. However, Alexi's struggles with his newfound condition continue when he is once again transformed into the Rhino during the multi-part Rise of Doc Ock storyline. This time, the Jackal adds 2 more mutated rhinos to the gang. However, Spidey and his team manage to cure him and the other 2 rhino individuals. Physically, Alexi is a well-built, muscled guy with brown hair and brown eyes. He is embellished with 3 freckles on each cheek. However, in his rhino form, he transforms into a heavily built, hard, grey-skinned monster. He has a single prominent horn and protrusions on his back, which was unlike any of the previous rhino versions. He also spoke in grunts and growls, displaying increased aggression and a hot-tempered attitude. However, just like the real rhinoceros, Alexi's rhino avatar has poor eyesight, causing him to perceive moving subjects as a potential threat. It added complexity to his battles with Spider-Man and others.
I guess Rhino won't be crashing.
Spidey and his amazing friends. In the animated series Marvel's Spidey and His Amazing Friends, Rhino takes on the role of one of the supporting antagonists. This show features younger versions of Marvel characters and was specifically produced for preschoolers, making it their fun and accessible introduction to the Marvel universe. In this series, Rhino is voiced by Justin Schenkaro and portrayed with a bit of a comedic twist, and he's not the sharpest pencil in the box. Nevertheless, his immense brawn strength allows him to create havoc and go on wild rampages wherever he pleases. His favourite pastimes include stealing from others or breaking things without much reasoning. In the short, Road Raging Rhino, Spidey mentions that these were the only 2 things that Rhino loved doing the most. And well, it's a kid's cartoon, so there's only so much rampage they can even show. Then of course there's Rhino's selfish attitude. He couldn't care less about who he endangers as long as he's getting his way, which is the case with most supervillains, if you see. In the episode Test Your Super Strength, Rhino tries his luck with the Hulk when he teases Hulk for amusement, getting him angry and irked. This shows that Rhino took pleasure in other people's misery. Yes, Rhino is more brawl than brains, but in one episode he showed his cleverness by disguising himself as the Wazzle Snook to frighten everyone. So there's a few ideas under his belt. Rhino's appearance in the show includes a dark grey helmet with a rhino-like horn feature on it, emphasising his animal-inspired persona. But not much is known about his transformation into the Rhino. His strength is showcased as being on par with that of the Hulk. He possesses incredible power, allowing him to perform impressive feats like effortlessly lifting a Ferris wheel, hurling cars into the air, and even causing destruction by stomping on bridges. Rhino's cinematic introduction, unleashing chaos and destruction on the big screen. From the animated series to his silver screen debut, Rhino is leaving his mark across all mediums. Amazing Spider-Man 2. In the Amazing Spider-Man 2 movie, Alexei Sistevich, a former leader of the Russian mob played by actor Paul Giamatti, found himself on a collision course with Spider-Man when he and his gang hijacked an Oscorp truck laden with plutonium. After a thrilling chase through New York City, Spider-Man captured Sistevich's comrades while Alexei continued the vehicular rampage. But his escapade was short-lived. Thanks to our friendly neighborhood hero, Spider-Man caught up with him once again, and using his quick reflexes, he disarmed Alexei and webbed him up for the police. Alexei ended up on Rikers Island, imprisoned by the NYPD. However, if you thought this was the end of it, you're wrong. It was merely the beginning of Alexei taking on the role of the Rhino. While in prison, he caught the attention of the mysterious Gustav Fierce, who had sinister plans in mind and was finding recruits. Fierce breaks Alexei out of jail, offering him the chance to get revenge by joining the team of supervillains. In one scene, we even get a glimpse of the mech suit, which resembles a rhino, hidden in the pits of Oscorp. Taking on the alias the Rhino, Alexei donned the powerful exosuit, granting him superhuman strength and durability. With this newfound power, he took to the streets of New York, wreaking havoc and calling out the web slinger for the showdown. It led to an epic confrontation between the two, and while we don't really see how it ends in the movie, we can assume somehow Spidey outwitted the Rhino and saved the day. Now, Alexei is an ordinary human, filled with rage against the city and Spider-Man. However, when he dons a high-tech battle mech suit, it endows him with extraordinary strength, allowing him to crush concrete and even penetrate steel with ease. Additionally, the Rhino suit provided him with superhuman speed and durability. The suit is also armed with heavy machine guns, missile launchers, and other weaponry. It's almost as if Alexei is a metallic Rhino and very different from his comic book counterparts. Now, Paul Giamatti was set for a comeback in part 3 of The Amazing Spider-Man, but unfortunately that movie was scrapped, so the question remains, will we get to see the Rhino take a central role in any of the upcoming movies? Looks like we might.
Don't you want to know why they call me the Rhino?
Will Rhino appear in the upcoming movie Kraven the Hunter? Sony Pictures' Kraven the Hunter is set for the silver screen in October, and the trailer made an exciting reveal towards the end. In the trailer, released about a month ago, fans were not only treated to a glimpse of Aaron Taylor-Johnson's fierce portrayal of Kraven, but also a surprising appearance by Alessandro Nivola as the Rhino. Don't you want to know why they call me the Rhino? The line has created a lot of buzz about the formidable villain. By the looks of it, he won't be your typical Rhino. In this iteration, the character seems to draw power from real animals, giving him a superhuman edge. Now, the trailer doesn't really divulge details nor show the entire transformation of the Rhino, but we do get a glimpse of his arm as it begins to take the form of the Rhino hide. So clearly, to fight Kraven, they needed someone with equally potent animalistic powers, and who better than the Rhino to give fans the showdown they deserve? Especially after the disastrous mechanical Rhino in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, who got slack from fans for near zero resemblance to the comic book version. The new take on Rhino will definitely be a refreshing one. With animal-inspired abilities on both sides, this clash promises to be intense and electrifying. Rhino is the ultimate challenge, a worthy and super-powered foe to put Kraven's skills to the test, and we're bracing ourselves for an adrenaline-fueled battle between the two. Different versions of Rhino. Where there is Marvel, there are multiple verses, and Rhino has played a significant role in several of them. So, let's explore Rhino's alternate reality versions. Earth 1610, Ultimate Universe. In the Ultimate Universe, we meet Alex O'Hearn, a brilliant scientist who dons the Rhino cybernetic armor stolen from the US military. With incredible strength and power, he charged into a bank vault like a rhinoceros on a rampage, causing mayhem on the streets of Manhattan. Although Spidey tried to stop him, it was Iron Man who swooped in to save the day. Ultimate Rhino's suit was packed with high-tech features. This experimental suit boasted an advanced hydraulic suspension AI technology that granted him superhuman strength and durability, which is why Rhino could easily charge into a bank vault, sending it crashing down like a ton of bricks. Even motor vehicles were no match for him. He just as effortlessly ploughed through them while on the rampage. Earth 2149, Marvel Zombies. In the Marvel Zombies twisted reality, Rhino joined the undead feast and attempted to gobble none other than Galactus. Zombie Hulk claimed he ripped off Rhino's head and devoured it, finding it surprisingly terrible to taste. Yikes. Now, there's not much information on Rhino's life before the zombie outbreak, but it's safe to assume that his past on this alternate Earth closely mirrored that of his Earth 616 counterpart, the original Rhino. Earth 58163, House of M. Meanwhile, in House of M, Rhino turned into a bodyguard for mutant superstar Spider-Man, but things take a shocking turn with the event leading to Rhino unmasking the Green Goblin to reveal a jaw-dropping secret. It was a delusional Peter behind the green mask all along. Rhino's appearance remained similar to his previous versions with the skin-laced grey suit and gigantic body. MC2 Universe gave Rhino a chance to show his good side, though he did have a criminal past. Rhino is living his criminal life in Russia when his aunt falls sick, so gathering all the money he made, Rhino moved his aunt to a hospital in the US. Rhino briefly loses his temper while visiting the hospital with his sick aunt. However, he calms down and waits in line where he comes face to face with Peter Parker, also known as Spider-Man. Clearly, Rhino and Peter find common ground due to their experiences, and they call a truce. Rhino ends up finding employment, leaving his criminal life behind. Earth 295, Age of Apocalypse. Earth 295, The Age of Apocalypse, showed a darker twist in Rhino's evolution story. As one of Death's soldiers on the moon at Apocalypse's recovery base, aka the ship, Rhino becomes entangled in a nefarious scheme. Death captures superhumans and subjects them to the Terrigen Mist, transforming them into monstrous beings under his control. Turns out one of these captured superhumans was Rhino, who underwent a harrowing transformation, becoming a powerful and warped monster. Embracing his newfound power, he joins Death and his henchmen, leading them in a fierce battle against the X-Men and Magneto on the moon. But, in an encounter with Rogue, Rhino is knocked out from a powerful punch laid by her. The Age of Apocalypse reaches its devastating climax when an explosion caused by the powerful mutant Sunfire engulfs the ship. While the fate of the Rhino remains uncertain, he likely met his end in this catastrophic event. Earth 9939. Earth 9939 is another version of Rhino where he puts his powers to good use. Rhino's evolution takes a heroic turn as he becomes a member of the Avengers, fighting alongside remarkable superheroes to protect the world from threats. Rhino also found companionship in the form of She-Hulk, who he married. However, tragedy struck when She-Hulk tried to stop Charnel by travelling back in time. Charnel broke She-Hulk's neck, prompting an enraged Rhino to avenge his wife's death. However, Rhino met a tragic but heroic end at the hands of Charnel. Rhino appeared in many other alternate realities. In JLA Avengers, Rhino joined Krona's villainous army to defend a stronghold, briefly overpowering Triathlon in battle. And in Spider-Verse Earth 001, Rhino teamed up with Verna's hounds, hunting alternate Peter Parkers and falling to the superior Spider-Man, Assassin Spider-Man and Spider-Punk. He also made an appearance in Old Man Logan, where Rhino formed the Rhino Gang in a villain-dominated world, conquering regions but meeting his end at Forge's hands during a fierce showdown. While his original form remains that of a villain, Rhino has crossed over to the good side time and time again, and we see this in the different Marvel verses. But those were his comic book appearances. What about the video game versions of Rhino? Let's find out. Evolution of Rhino in video games. In various Spider-Man video games, Rhino appears as a formidable adversary, each of which offers a unique and exciting experience for players. In Spider-Man for PS, Nintendo 64 and Dreamcast, Rhino confronts Spidey in challenging boss combat. Rhino battles Spider-Man and Black Cat at a power plant. He was voiced by D. Bradley Baker. In Spider-Man 2 2004, Rhino, voiced by John DiMaggio, resembles his ultimate avatar, presenting a thrilling boss encounter. Rhino appears as the villain in the console as well as the PC versions. He plays the first boss to fight in New York City in the console version, while the PC version shows Spider-Man chasing after Rhino as he escapes from jail and faces him again when Oscorp is under attack by Dr. Octopus. Ultimate Spider-Man features Alex O'Hearn as the Rhino boss, voiced by Bob Glauberman, providing an engaging showdown with Spider-Man. Spider-Man confronts him at a car park lot, discovering a small man inside his powered armour. Rhino speaks Latin during the fight and reveals that Trask Industries designed his suit. Rhino's suit is so advanced that he does a better job at controlling it than computers. Marvel Ultimate Alliance introduces Rhino, voiced by Peter Lurry, as a mini-boss in Doctor Doom's Masters of Evil team. Rhino teams up with Shocker in Murder World, and later they both guard Heimdall, whom they overthrow. He has an exciting exchange with Venom and Thing, and serves on Thing's simulator disc as the boss. In Spider-Man 3, Rhino, voiced by Steve Bloom, sports a unique skin condition resembling a real rhino. On Stillwell's orders, he battles Spider-Man and Scorpion. Rhino is hired by Dr. Stillwell to defeat Scorpion, but he escapes after defeating him. Rhino later attacks Spider-Man and Scorpion at Dr. Stillwell's hideout, but Spider-Man crashes the ceiling cement to knock him unconscious. Spider-Man Friend or Foe features Rhino as both a boss and a playable character after being freed from mind control. He was voiced by John DiMaggio. In Spider-Man Web of Shadows, Rhino is shown as an assistant character and boss, aiding Spider-Man and being manipulated by an invasion of symbiotes. He was voiced by Fred Tatasciore. Then we had the Amazing Spider-Man film tie-in game, where Rhino, voiced by Fred Tatasciore, became a genetic hybrid and a living weapon for a Russian crime syndicate. Rhino's other video game appearances include the Nintendo DS version of Spider-Man Edge of Time, where he was voiced by Fred Tatasciore. Rhino took Anti-Venom's place to be accidentally fused with both Alchemax scientist Walker Sloan and Dr. Octopus. It transforms him into the monstrous atrocity. Lego Marvel Superheroes also saw Rhino, who was voiced by Robin Atkin Downes, as a playable character in the game. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 film tie-in game had a mobile version featuring the Alexei Sestevich version of Rhino as a boss in his rhinoceros-themed armour, where he was voiced by Robin Atkin Downes. Lastly, in Marvel Strike Force, Rhino is part of the Sinister Six team, adding to the game's excitement and challenges. So, Rhino has etched his mark in the Marvel universe. With his hulking strength and tragic past, Rhino's evolution weaves a captivating tale of heroism, treachery, and the eternal battle between good and evil. And now, our excitement is at an all-time high as we await Rhino's look in Kraven the Hunter. Let us know in the comments below which version of Rhino you love best, and what your expectations are of Rhino's avatar for the upcoming film.